What's up, everyone? Welcome back to our Trndsttrs podcast series. Today, I'm joined by Jordan Gallant in the finance industry, also super popular and active on social media, locally in Kansas City. For our LA friends, that's kind of the norm, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for us in Kansas City, it's not necessarily the norm. So whenever someone's kind of establishing their presence online, it always kind of peeps up on my radar per se.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of build a digital relationship. And finally, one of us reached out to the other, and we were like, hey, we should finally actually grab coffee. And I was like, you know what, instead of coffee, let's turn it into content.
Yep.
Which is always my vision for it. So this is very literally our introduction conversation. We literally physically met for the first time 5 minutes ago. So this should be an interesting conversation where you get to learn a lot about both of us, and then we're going to dive into several discussion topics. First, could you give us kind of a synopsis of who you are and what you do? And the way I like to set this up is, rather than telling us what you do in terms of position and this and all the kind of BS per se, what is the value you provide to your either clients or customers, or how you kind of perceive yourself?
Yes, and thank you for having me, by the way.
Of course,
I'm super excited about this. This is going to be a great interview. I love your energy. I love what we're going to be able to do going forward.
Yes.
We've been connected on LinkedIn and Instagram and all that stuff for several years, and finally it was hey, we need to link up. Let's get to know each other for coffee. And Jake said, no, let's get some real content going.
Yeah.
Let's make some magic out of this. And I think it's going to be cool. We can dive into different things of what we've thought about each other on social media and how we've been connected and stuff. But yeah, a little bit about me is, my name's Jordan Gallant. I'm from Toronto, Canada originally. I live in Kansas City, Missouri now. I love KC. I go back to Canada about once a year, but I think Kansas City.
Summer?
Yeah, usually the summer.
Yeah.
Whenever, but yeah, summer's much better. You don't want to go
yeah.
about a 6-month winter up there.
Yeah.
And I love Kansas City. Kansas City's going to be home for the rest of my life, so I'm happy to be here. I work in the finance industry now. Our value, like you said, is we help people do the stuff that maybe they don't understand, or maybe they get nervous about, or when it comes to finances or life insurance or being protected or protecting their family or planning or making big purchases or whatever has to do with finance or investments or insurance or anything. We try to make that simple. We try to,
because there is a lot of red tape, compliance, and just confusion, I think, about it.
Yes.
And it's not taught in our education system. I've kind of pondered on that a lot in the past. So it's so necessary that we do provide that actual education medium, because it doesn't exist. And so I love what you're doing there, and obviously we've been well connected with other financial advisors and such in the past. We actually work with a fintech company, educating primarily that 12 to 18-year-old demographic. So very passionate about that space. I think it's changing a lot.
Yes.
I talked about this on a past podcast with Harrison Quinn, actually, about some of those changes. But something I'd be curious to hear from you is, how long have you been in Kansas City?
So I moved here when I was 13 years old.
13, okay.
And it's been kind of a journey since then. We can dive into it if we need to. If not, there was a little bit of a phase where I was technically an illegal alien when I got here.
Really? Interesting.
Long story short is, when I was a young man, I was living in Toronto, Canada with my mom. She wanted a fresh start in life, and she met a man in an online chat room.
There you go.
And decided that she would move to Kansas City and get married.
Wow.
And I was just a young guy, and I said, okay, let's do it. And unfortunately, we didn't fill out the proper paperwork and all that stuff. So when I became 15 and went out to get my
That's
permit,
the age when it happens?
Well,
it's because you went out to get your permit.
I went out to get my permit, and then that's when I found out I couldn't get my permit. They were like, well, you're technically an illegal alien, which started this process, which was long and hard, and I wouldn't recommend anyone to do. But the long story short is, I got my citizenship about 4 years ago.
It took that long to get it?
It took about eight to 9 years of paperwork and driving to meetings and then taking the test and doing all these things. But there was a little while there where I was worried. It's something that when you're kind of getting threatened with being banned from the United States for 10 years and something along those lines, you get a little stressed out. The normal things that you're worried about in your life kind of get pushed off to the side when you're worried about that. But I love Kansas City.
It's crazy how it gets put in perspective of holy shit, this could all go away. What am I actually stressing about? But that's cool that you've obviously kind of seen Kansas City. What's your perception of the city as a whole and some of the development happening? Obviously, I've kind of worked and lived downtown for just the past 3.5 years, maybe even 4. And even in that period of time, the evolution's been very quick. I don't know, have you noticed anything similar happening in the city?
Yes, so I graduated college in 2014
Got it, yeah.
and moved back from Springfield to Kansas City, and that was right when the Royals were going to the World Series for their first time.
Perfect timing, yeah.
And in my opinion, that's when the city started changing. People started looking at Kansas City as like, oh, what's going on? There's a lot going on there. A lot of startups. It's the entrepreneurial community. I mean, it's a lot going on, a lot of energy, especially with that postseason run. We didn't win that first year, but they kept it going, and then the next year it exploded. And I think that had a little bit to do with maybe putting us on a national map.
Certainly puts that public perception there.
Yes.
Because I think the Royals were so much more like attached to Kansas City.
Yes.
I feel like the Chiefs are a little bit less like in terms of how our perception of them in Kansas City, like the Chiefs I would say are definitely more popular than the Royals were,
Right.
but it's certainly close. But regardless, people are like crazy fanatics here. I think on a national level though, I don't think the Chiefs are as recognized as like Kansas City. Like they're not as connected because the Chiefs are a little bit more well known. So like holy shit, who the fuck like the Royals? Like they're always awful. Like I just remember like 100 lost seasons and like Jimmy Gobble pitching. Like with an 8.34 ERA like every year, and it's like what the hell. So yeah, it's definitely been cool to see that evolution, and the startup community's definitely been making some moves and making some waves. Something that we've been trying to pioneer is the media culture. Something that New York and LA have done such an incredible job is truly being like the media capitals of really the world.
Right.
There's certainly some other areas as well, but those have been like the primary spots. Miami, I would say a close number third. And then from there, it's kind of unknown. Like Chicago isn't necessarily like media centric per se. I would say it's a little bit more business, but Kansas City, we've been trying to cultivate that culture. And one of the ways to do so is I think to bring the overall median up. And when I talk about that, does the average consumer walking across the street, like, are they as tuned in with social media, with influencer, with pop culture as someone would be in these other cities? And I think right now, if you were to compare us to those other cities, it would definitely be no. But I think we're getting a little bit better about that. So something I'd be curious to hear from your perspective is obviously you're always tapped in with the social media and stuff. What do you think has sparked that? And is that like something that you see continuing to happen in terms of like the average 25 to 35-year-old being a little bit more in tune, or would you say you're kind of a trendsetter in that sphere?
I mean, I've always been a little bit of a tech geek when it comes to social media and stuff like that. I mean, I was on the MySpace days. I was on the Xanga. I don't even know if you heard of that one.
No, not even heard of
Xanga was the one and not the two back in the day. You can look up Xanga, but that was the original. I mean, it was cool because you could put music on the page and you could do whatever. You could post and comment and stuff. It was actually really ahead of its time. And then MySpace came in. You had your top 8, and if you ever you had your best friends in there. And did you have a MySpace, or was that a little before?
Little even before me.
Okay, and then
it's crazy.
But the best part was you had your best friends in your top 8 and stuff. But if you had like a girl or something that you kind of had a crush on or something, you might slide her up in the top 4 or something, and that kind of let her know. It's like, oh wow, it's just like and then if she put you in the top 8, then you knew it was like, okay, something's going on. That was kind of like a little bit of a hint, but then Facebook came and changed the game, obviously. But to answer your question, I think what's funny about Facebook and social media is that now it's people that are over 35 are probably the majority users. I mean, grandmothers are on it.
So fast.
Yes. I mean, so you have grandmas and grandpas that are on Facebook every day. You have, Gen Xers, baby boomers, all the way down to, well, maybe not the Gen Zers because they kind of not really on Facebook.
I was going to say, we literally don't use Facebook hardly, which is crazy to think about.
Because it's still the most active.
Technically, because Facebook owns Instagram, which I would say is probably one of those top 3 for Gen Z, so it's indirectly still using Facebook, still getting Zuckerberg some money, but yeah, it's like Facebook is not really used outside of like groups and outside of like invites to shit. That's about all I personally go on there for outside of like client stuff.
Yes, and the event invite thing is huge. Amazing. You can just, instead of texting every single person, you could create that Facebook event page and get it going. But I want to get your opinion on Byte.
Let's hear it.
Which I just recently heard about, which is the Vine owners are redoing it.
I don't know how that's legal, by the way. like why they didn't. It must have been a certain tenure to
Mhm.
now he can legally create the new version of Vine, but
Because he
was
sold it to
originally-
Twitter, right?
sold it to
Okay.
Twitter, and then what did Twitter really shit that?
They didn't do anything with it. And then Instagram, took over stories,
So it
which
took
just
the
kind
same-
of made Snapchat go down, which I
Yeah.
think there's a space for Snapchat too, but in my opinion, for my space, it's kind of died,
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
opinion. But I know like a lot of the Gen Zers are all about it, and my little brother that lives in Arkansas, and they always do these streaks and
Yeah,
stuff.
streaks
and
is a
I'm
huge
just like,
thing. So Snapchat's probably still the most underrated social media platform, primarily because brands can't figure out a way to create organic content on it. It's
Right.
not as easy. It's not like posting on Instagram because you can't just really get followers easily. You
Right.
gotta add like friends, so it's a little bit different. But there's still incredible opportunities on that platform. The cost per conversions are still like really low.
Okay.
Because a lot of advertisers don't advertise on Snapchat.
Mhm.
And then it's still wildly popular, but it's just not like as well known and popular for brands.
Right.
Snapchat was doing a survey on this, and they reached out to a bunch of agencies, and we were one of the agencies asked in this kind of survey report. And my whole take on it was Snapchat needs to move into augmented reality a little bit more,
There you
kind
go.
of a new tech feature. But to answer your question regarding Byte, I'm convinced. Here's what I'm concerned with Byte is if they try to play copycat with TikTok. And I think TikTok's already established their presence.
Right.
My only question with TikTok is if the China whole thing
Right.
becomes a problem. If
Right.
it doesn't become a problem, TikTok's gonna sail and they're gonna continue to grow.
Right.
If it does, we'll see. Byte, I have confidence in because it was the former founder of Vine. That's the only,
Right.
but
Right.
that's the only reason. Like it's a little bit too copycat right now for
Right.
me personally. But it's one of the things we'll see. And so what I've been doing recently is just reposting all the TikTok content onto Byte.
Right.
Well,
But it's only 6 seconds, right?
it's only 6 seconds.
So
which
they're kind of limiting
limits-
themselves a little bit.
I think so.
Or maybe they're doing that
it
on
makes
purpose.
you wonder. It makes you wonder like how Vine gained such popularity with 6 seconds.
Right.
It's just not a lot of time to do a whole lot.
No.
And then from an advertiser perspective, it's also like now you're having to put your 30-second ad spot into 6 seconds.
Right.
15 seconds is already hard enough. 6 is like real difficult.
Right.
So it's gonna be tough. I don't know. It depends on how they do their growth.
Right.
Like what TikTok did great was, and no one mentions this, but like how did TikTok grow so fast? What they did was they made it easy to create content on the platform, and then it would automatically save the video to your camera roll once you post it to TikTok with, here's the key, with the TikTok emblems on it
Yes,
and logos,
yes.
right? With your username.
Right.
So then when you went to repost on your other platforms, it drives back to your TikTok
Yes.
and exponentially grows. So
Which was
I think-
genius.
Yeah, I think that's what they've done well. Byte has not implemented that yet, and the sharing difficulties are difficult. Doesn't make sense to me. The editing's kind of whack, but we'll see if it pops up or not.
Yeah.
Are there any other like social media new trends you're looking at? Is LinkedIn like a popular platform for you at all yet? Are you creating consistently there?
Yeah, so with my opinion on the 2020 landscape
Got
of
it,
social
Let's hear
media, I'm gonna say LinkedIn is strictly business, which I love because
Yeah.
it cuts out a lot of the riffraff of what you might get on a Facebook or whatever. I mean, there's some political opinions that slide in on LinkedIn, and you'll still get a little here and there. But for organic growth for a company or for whatever, I think that's the number one place because
I can agree.
professionals are on there. You could have an executive in their 40s that doesn't have any social media at all, but they have LinkedIn and they're active, which I think is awesome because
I think it's the value of the network too.
yes,
If you have 1,000 followers on LinkedIn versus 100,000 on Instagram, that 1,000 followers on LinkedIn is likely going to yield you greater revenue and ROI than 100,000 on Instagram. Obviously, it depends on what business you're in, but that's why I've actually put LinkedIn even ahead of TikTok when it comes to personal brands and the average brand. If you're a consumer brand, obviously TikTok's going to be number one, but that's how I've been prioritizing
Right.
it. And then something I'm curious to hear from you that we mentioned is you've obviously followed me and we follow each other across social media channels. Something that might be interesting to do is seeing what your how much of my story can you fill in just
Right,
based on
right,
that?
right.
Because I think what's interesting is how much this conversation, this introduction, has been expedited because we already know a lot of shit about each other.
Right.
So I'll let you take it away. I'm curious to hear.
Okay, and I'm excited about this. Yes. We talked about this for like 60 seconds before we started the camera rolling, but it's something that we've been connected on socials for maybe 2+ years, and I've seen his growth, and I loved it because I love that go-getter attitude that you have, and you're always pushing and you're always driving, which is something I believe. I feel that I'm not going to say that I'm that same way, which I believe I am, but I don't want to be like arrogant or something. But no, I see a little bit of myself in you, especially when I was 20. Is that it's like I always want to push the boundaries. I want to go a little bit harder. I want to get outside my comfort zone and put yourself out there, which subjects yourself to a little criticism. You name it, but you see, it's good for your growth, right?
100%.
So, but what I've seen on just following you and just seeing a little bit of me and you and seeing that energy going, and what I've liked about your story, and let's just say, this is my opinion on what your story is based off your marketing on your socials, and then we'll see how close it is.
It's a good audit, man.
So my guess, so I want to say that I think obviously from the Johnson County, Kansas City area, I mean, it seems like, I don't know how much about the early life, but I'm guessing, maybe a good student, was able to get into KU, correct?
Yep.
And then it seems like at KU, you might have been there maybe about a year or so, and I think the big post, and maybe when we first got connected, I don't know if it was Startland News, that Startland News?
Yeah.
They might have posted an article on you guys or something like that. It's like, young Gen Z starts on social media business, and I'm like, oh, let me check this guy out. And I'm looking at your thing, and it was like this big post about, I'm deciding to leave college early to start this company. This is, the new millennial. I want to, not just go into a bunch of debt and just get into the world. I feel like I have the tools to do it. I'm ready to do what I love. And then so you just jumped in head first, maybe 18, 19 years old. I'm not exactly sure the timeline. And then what's cool about it seemed like you started getting maybe a little bit of clients in enough to get like a little bit of business going. So I think you were able to take that and say, I don't know if you reached out to either some businesses or some family members or friends or whatever, but you were able to say like, look, this is not just a Ponzi scheme that I'm thinking of. I actually have clients. I actually have a business I'm growing. I could use a little bit of help, and I'm not sure if you had like an uncle or a friend or someone that came in and said, hey, we're going to help you out a little bit with a little bit of financing, maybe a little bit on the, short term, just to get you going. I don't know if that happened or not, but that was my guess. And then you were able to take whatever that assistance is or help was from whoever, even if it wasn't financial support, that moral support, that advice, that anything, that network, you were able to tap into your network, start your own business, and go from there. And it seemed like you started hiring people that were your age, that were like-minded, and maybe some, were cut out for it, some weren't, and you had to maybe kind of go through that trial and error process. And then you were able to just kind of, by living and learning, that you might have fallen a few times, you've gotten up a few times. You're only 20 years old, so you're way ahead of the curve. But it seems like in these last 2 years, you've learned so much, and you've just exploded on all the socials, and you're taking off everywhere, and your videos are great. I'm excited for what you have coming forward. But
appreciate it.
So the long story short is, I think, is you left college early, you started your own business, it's starting to take off. You're a little bit more mature maybe than your age would tell, and you're excited to be a leader. You're humble. You're not out here whipping with a cracking a whip, trying to be a mean boss. You're trying to be the new type of leader of what it is in 2020, and be more open and be more honest with people. So how close are we?
Carter, how close? Well, I guess you don't even know necessarily. That was really damn close. So literally spot on. Like Johnson County, always a good student, not like 4.0 student, always like 3.75 of like, I'll do a good enough job, I'll study when I have to, but am I gonna put in the extra effort? Hell no. Like,
Right.
like I'm gonna go mess around with friends and do some fun stuff. Spend a year at KU, then very, like you said, like I was just like, this is not, like, I feel like I can already do it, I got confidence, let's make it happen. Even before that, I was always starting kind of business in high school. That gave me that confidence and traction. But then that is what happened. Like I literally dropped out, brought on a team, started signing some clients, and then actually we've operated actually debt free and profitable this entire time without getting any seed capital. So I had like a little bit of cash left over from I would like write people's papers in college. My parents wouldn't let me get a job because they wanted me to focus on school, and I was like, shit, I need money for this business I'm going to start that I don't know about. So I would like write papers for people, charging like $50 or $100. I'd do like odd jobs.
Completely legal, by the way.
100% legal. Yeah, not calling anyone out. And then I just got a little bit of capital, and then literally $250 LLC. Then bought an office space for $450. I remember because I was like, I had to negotiate that one.
Right.
I was like, this is all I got. Like I can pay you for 1 month, and then we'll see what happens. But then started getting traction, and then a couple articles came out, started in the news. Like I think I've had 3 articles in the past 18 months, and then KCTV5 was another. And then we just started getting clients, and then like you said, like fucked up a lot over the past few years. Also done some things really well, but regardless, just been trying to grow 1% every day, both mentally as well as the business. And now it is where we're working with Fortune 1000 companies and a lot of like well-established businesses. And doing some fun, exciting things. So
I like that.
Dude, that's crazy how close
I like
it was.
that.
So moral of that story is, if you show your true authentic self online, someone you've never personally met can know 99.8% of your entire story. And how valuable is that in a conversation? Because now imagine if you were a potential prospect, right? I don't need to go spend the next week giving you the whole rundown. You already know. And I think it qualifies or disqualifies people quickly. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this concept, which is something I always talk about is like, be your true authentic self online, even if it's things that people aren't going to like. Like, I'll film videos, I'll go to meetings with a backwards hat on. Like I'm rocking a t-shirt right now that says Next Generation Wealth. A lot of old heads might be pissed off by this. Like I'm not, and so the reason I curse in my videos, the reason I do that is not like, I know what people want to see. I know that if I always wear a suit every day and said my clean cut things to the camera, that it would get me more meetings. The problem is, even if that gets me that meeting, even if that becomes a contract, then now I can't be my real self.
It's not aligned with your core values.
Exactly. And so I'd rather be a polarizing figure. People either love me or hate me, rather than just be vanilla and people just like me. Like, I'd rather be hated by a lot of people and loved by a few than liked by everyone, because no one remembers people they like. I got a lot of people I like, not a lot of people I totally fuck with love, you know what I mean? So there's just such a difference there. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, because the financial space is interesting because you can't be as polarizing. I understand that. But what's your perspective of trying to stand out? Because you obviously do things differently. You're not doing things traditionally. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think everything you said is right, and I think it's kind of like a Gary Vee, right? No one's going to a meeting with Gary Vee expecting him to be polite and he's polite, but to not cuss, and that's his big thing, and then his wearing a suit and all that stuff. You know what you're getting with him.
He was literally on Bloomberg this morning with a backwards hat on. This guy.
Probably wearing Trndsttrs or something. You know what he loves, you know what he's about, he's no BS, he's going to get to the point, and he's going to try to get you the results, and he doesn't care about your short-term emotions. And I think maybe that might be, obviously I feel like that's probably a good mentor to you.
Short-term emotions,
And so, you're kind of, the Kansas City 20-year-old version of Gary Vee, right? So, which is awesome, I love that. I love Gary Vee, he's a good guy, he's a good message, but on my side, you're right. The financial industry is the most regulated industry in the world. Let me take some water real quick.
No worries. I think, a lot of people getting some of those comparisons, it scares the hell out of me, because it's like, how do you ever compete with a guy on that level? Despite something I mentioned to these guys a lot is we are 10 years ahead of when he kind of started things. So thus, we got a little bit of time on our side, but we definitely can't expect to compete with someone who's just a freak of nature like that. But I appreciate it, because that is the idol for me in the business world. But it's shit. We gotta make sure we get there. Similarly, is there anyone in the finance space or any celebrity icon idol that you look up to that you can kind of model what you do after? Does that exist?
A little bit. I mean, in the finance space, you definitely have a few people that are key in shaping things. And funny enough, Tony Robbins has been a really great,
Really? Yeah.
because he's been involved with Creative Planning, which is like a different firm in town.
Yeah.
He's built different books on finance and all that stuff. But I think with finance, it's such a regulated industry that you do have to be careful with what you do. But the company I'm with right now is called Prevail Innovative Wealth Strategies.
Yeah.
And how they're unique is they transition assets to a tax-free environment. So they're a different type of approach than the typical, insurance planning or advisory firm, to where it just focuses on maybe strictly protection. We do protection and life insurance and disability income insurance and stuff too, but it's also, what are you going to do when you retire? How are you going to handle that on the back end? What are the tax consequences of that? And I consider myself a financial educator as compared to advisor, or you name it, or whatever title that someone wants to give, because I don't want to be a salesman. I'm not a car salesman. I'm not something like that. If I educate you and lay out what the best plans of attack are for you to reach your goals, whether it's long-term goals, short-term goals, whatever it might be, let me paint you a plan, paint you a picture, give you the best options, teach you why that's important to have an emergency fund or save for certain things, or to plan a certain way. That way you can take those options and take that education and say, okay, it makes sense now. I know what I want to do. Let's work together. And then I'm like, okay, let's shake hands and do this, because I want someone to trust me first. I want someone to know that I'm loyal. I'm not as much of an analytical. I don't like going into all the little details. I'm more of a relationship guy. I want you to trust me. I want you to know that I trust you. I want to be able to work with you as a client as much as you want to work with me as an advisor. So it's a give and take, and I think it's something that, just like you want to be your honest, true self and show your true intentions to someone so that they can understand you.
Yeah, I think an interesting question on that is, at what moment is free work and free consulting just taking away potential? Because I know in the finance space, that's how it works. Is you're upfronting a lot of stuff before you even have anything signed.
Right.
I know that's something we struggle with as an agency, of we want to help potential clients or anyone for that matter with certain things. This has actually been a big topic for me recently. A lot of people reach out to me and ask for advice on certain things, and I would love to go grab coffee with them or go hop on a call or share. My favorite is sharing insights into Gen Z, but I'm we charge our other clients lots of money for that,
right? And
so that does them a disservice. And I finally come around to be damn, I'm sorry, but I do have to charge for that specific, if we're doing that. So I've tried to find ways to get around that, but that's just been a matter of the fact I've had to implement recently. How about the finance space though? Because you keep at what point do you determine, oh, this is no longer worth pursuing, or God, I'm just doing all this free consulting.
Right.
Do is there a particular point in the process that you're no, I'm done?
Yeah, Jake, that's a good question, and I think it's something that's not just finance or marketing. I think it's sales in general, or just everything in relationships in general. But it's how do you I don't even know that word, but how do you manage your time to where you're utilizing your resources the best? How am I going to plan out my meetings? How am I going to schedule my work week to where I'm getting the most out of every minute? And so you're right, there are time wasters out there that just want to use and get as much information out of you so that they can just go use the cheaper version and get as much value out of you without actually paying you anything. And so you actually have to figure out a filtration system for yourself, to where it's how do I know this person isn't trying to waste my time versus being disrespectful and saying, I'm not going to work with you because you're going to waste my time. So you really have to know your boundaries. You have to be upfront with people, sometimes maybe even having a little bit of a hard conversation at first to break through that barrier. It's just like you said, listen, I would love to grab coffee with you. Unfortunately, my time is super valuable right now. If you'd love to set an appointment, unfortunately, we do charge a fee if you want to talk about these things. If you want to grab a drink sometime, maybe we can do that. But unfortunately, in the short term, I do not have a lot of time that I can spare to do that. But if we want to set up an actual business meeting and talk about pricing or marketing or whatever it is that you want to get to, you almost have to filter them through on the phone or when you first meet them and say, no disrespect, I would love to hang out with you sometime. You seem like a great person. Maybe hit them with a little bit of a compliment sandwich, like, you know, you're dressed sharply, you seem like a really good person. I'd love to meet with you sometime. My time this week, and especially in the next coming weeks, we have a bunch of projects we're working on that I just can't get away from.
You gotta be polite about it.
I have a consulting fee if you want to set up an actual 45-minute, 1-hour call or in-person meeting. We can knock that out, but unfortunately we do have to charge for that because this is what we do. We provide a value, and our value comes at a cost.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I do have a particular story around that, like, and this is something that Cody Isabel talks about, is like the prospect, like how they kind of walk through this journey, but there's going to be prospects that they just want to steal your information and run away.
Right.
Which I never truly encountered. I have a few times here and there, and obviously, you know, it happens, but do I ever get too like frustrated with it? Definitely not, because I get it, it's part of the game. But one in particular, this was so interesting to me, it still hasn't made sense. Like, we were working with this company, and they're like in the kind of sports e-commerce space, particularly within soccer, and we were literally went and met with their social media manager. We talked about some ideas, and then I even like gave them a consultation on all things TikTok. Well, then they jump in on it and start doing things, which totally fine. Like, by all means, please do. Then asked me to then put together like a proposal for them. So I kind of do that, but before I go into the proposal stage, I'm asking more questions. They don't want to give me those answers. I'm talking, you know, like budget constraints, all these nuances, whatever. Then literally blocks me on everything, walks away, like even on social media platforms. And then my favorite is like they posted something on LinkedIn, like thanking another, or like talking about how they had this idea, like they knew TikTok was gonna be big, knew they needed to go in on it, and then saw a ton of results from it. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't care. I'm not gonna charge you. I'm not gonna invoice you for a conversation that we didn't have a contract signed for. Like, I'm not gonna come back and invoice you. And also, if you don't want to pay me, that's cool. Like, I don't care. Like, don't pay me, you know? But to like block me in that conversation, that just didn't make sense to me. No. And so I'm like, dude, this is gonna come back to bite me in the ass one day, and I can't wait till it does. And so,
well, it will. It'll come back because anyone who runs their business or their life or anything in that sort of manner, it's not a long-term success, you know, option. I mean, so, you know, but on your standpoint, I mean, you just have to be happy that you learned that valuable lesson and they taught you that lesson, because I mean, I don't want you to be more guarded with your conversations now, but unfortunately you have to be. So you learned, they actually taught you a valuable lesson to say, okay, so now I can't give up on my trade secrets on a conversation that isn't being paid for a consulting fee or whatever it might be. And so unfortunately that sucks for you that you had to go through that, but I think in the long term, you know, you almost have to, it's kind of
everything's a learning lesson.
It's a learning lesson, right? And you know, good thing you learned that now than down the road when it could have been a $20,000 deal or something, and next thing you know, it's like you lost all that and they just stole it, and now they're doing this. This was probably going to be a small account anyway. So
exactly. Yeah, so it all works out for the better. So give me a quick rundown, prediction for the Super Bowl.
Oh man,
give me a score. Obviously, we're gonna have the Chiefs.
Well, first thing first, I just want to say Patrick Mahomes, this guy off the field, wow. I mean, his leadership, for someone that's 24 years old, this guy has done more off the field than I think on the field. Yeah, he has the no-look passes and he's won all these games, but when you hear him, like that video that went viral of him talking to his teammates and he's in a huddle, and these linemen are adults. These are like over 30 years old, over 300 pounds, that have kids, that don't have time for the BS. And here comes this young 24-year-old with a raspy voice, and it's just like, as you know, charming as he is, it's like, who is this kid? And he's like, go out there and be the best version of yourself. Just be the best that you can be. Don't try to be like anyone else. I believe if we play for each other and we're the best at what we do, and you try to just be the best version of yourself, I believe we'll win this game. And that got everyone going.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's teaching right there is life principles. It's like, be the best version of yourself. Don't try to be like the other team and beat them like how they're playing.
Yeah.
No, be the best version of yourself and just do that. So I think when you have someone like that at the top, with as young as he is, you have Travis Kelce, who's been here for 7 years, who's been grinding hard.
Yeah.
You have Tyreek Hill, who's the fastest man in the NFL.
Yeah.
You got Andy Reid, who deserves it more than anyone. He's on his 27th year as a coach, 21 as a head coach, 27, something like that.
Yeah.
Still hasn't won the big thing. He deserves it because that's a lovable guy.
Oh my God.
The city has been desperate for this championship for so long that it's going to happen.
It's the right time.
It's going to happen.
We got your revenge on San Fran too.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be close out the gate, and then I think like late third quarter, it's gonna be Mahomes with a deep ball, and then it's gonna be one of those, like Sammy Watkins post that just steals it, or a Tyreek Hill running a go route and just wide open, like one of those demoralizing plays where you're like, shit, like, we couldn't even guard at that. So
I think it's another thing too is what they give you is they give you all the emotions, which is what you want, right?
Yeah,
the first two playoff games is we're down.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if we go into this game and maybe we take the lead at first, but expect that we're probably going to go down at some point. You're going to feel that, disparity. It's like, oh my God, are we going to lose this game? Is this really going to happen? And you're going to feel it in your stomach. It's like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, here's our time to rise. And he's just going to come up and just do it and win the game. And maybe on the last drive, you know what I mean? On the last 10 seconds of the game, he's going to win it. And that's how he does it. He's going to do it. We're going to get all the emotions. It's not going to be some blowout. Well, I mean, I would like for it to be a blowout and we just win.
Yeah.
But that's not their style. They're going to go out and they're going to give it all, but it's going to be a good ride.
Yeah. Well, Kansas City's going to be a party this Sunday, hopefully.
Yes.
Sunday night.
Yes.
And really probably the rest.
What are your plans for?
I actually don't know. I need to figure that out. I don't like making plans. I just like people telling me where I can go when it comes to things, shit like that. So we'll see where I end up.
Okay. Well, there's a party with me and 20,000 of my other friends down at the Power and Light District.
Oh, shit.
There, so.
I'm about 2 minutes away from my
Yes.
apartment, so yeah, we'll make that happen.
And real quick, I mean, I don't know if we're trying to log off.
No, go ahead.
But I want to ask you a couple questions.
Yeah,
too,
hit me.
So with my opinion on the social media landscape, so being a marketing nerd, I want to geek out with you a little bit.
Yes.
I feel like LinkedIn is established as the professional space. Microsoft owns them. They're not letting them go. It's going to be LinkedIn's perfect. No one's going to make another business networking site. Maybe they will.
Yeah.
Instagram, owned by Facebook, they are holding down the picture and the Instagram models and all that stuff. And that's like the hot place to be. That's if you have the blue check mark and all that.
That's your digital profile.
You're the man or woman on that site, right? Twitter's the unfiltered place that Donald Trump has kind of brought back to life. You can say what you want, and it's more like a party, and you name it can be said on there. Those are established, right? Snapchat has now established its own little niche in the social media thing, and I feel like it's more Gen Z, and they want to be private, and they don't want their grandparents to know what they're doing on there and all this stuff like that. So they have their own little niche. With those four having that lockdown so far, I feel like a lot of people are still resisting TikTok a little bit, especially older than Gen Z, millennial and up. But TikTok is becoming undeniable. And I just found even in the last 2 months, everyone's getting on board TikTok. And my guess is that within a year, 50% of millennials will be on TikTok, and it will be the next thing. But my opinion is like, it's so hard for TikTok to even get in there because they're so established. Byte, in my opinion, just doesn't even have a chance because TikTok can barely get in there. How is Byte going to be the next one? So what's your opinion on the future of socials?
Yeah, so I think the best way to describe this analogy, it's an attention graph, and it's for attention everywhere. So here's kind of the analogy I like to bring up. Let's say there's two restaurants on the block. We have Chipotle, we have McDonald's across the street, we have a Chinese spot, and we have like a new hip Greek place, right? So there's our four. Mm-hmm. They're all established. And then there's a new one that pops up, and it's a little bit more unique, it's a little more hip. Let's call it like a, it's a little taco shop.
Right.
It's a little taco shop, right? So kind of in direct competition to Chipotle, but also kind of different and unique, also similar to, one of the others on there, but whatever. And it's already gaining traction and whatever. Mm-hmm. So then a new one pops up and we think, gosh, there's already four established here, there's already one on the rise. there's no way there's going to be fit for six. Yet go look at downtown or go look at the areas of these places, there's restaurants everywhere.
Right.
Well, the reason is the competition has a lot less to do with the competition in that industry, and more so the competition everywhere, because the restaurants and bars are not necessarily fighting with each other, they're fighting with people not going out. They're fighting with people going to other areas of town. They're fighting with, instead of me going out downtown, I'm going to go out in Westport, or I'm going to go live in South LP. Like, that's what they're fighting with, and that's more of the competition than the taco shop across the street, because there's enough consumers to go around.
Right.
So similarly with social media, it's an attention graph. People are going to consume media, whether that's TV, whether that's radio, whether that was print, whether now that's Netflix, that's Hulu, that's TV shows, binge watching, shows. That's spending time on social media platforms. That's spending time on YouTube, which is kind of a mix between social media and show oriented. So when you look at it that way, then it makes sense. When you understand that TikTok, the time spent on TikTok is not necessarily having to take away from Instagram, although we have seen it has started to siphon some attention away, but rather it's competing with things outside of it. It's instead of paying attention at the dinner table, you're on TikTok. It's instead of watching 2 hours of Netflix, you watch 1 hour Netflix, 1 hour on TikTok. 2 hours of YouTube, instead 90 minutes on YouTube, 30 minutes on TikTok. So it's attention graphs across the whole way. So that's why it can coexist. The average Gen Z is going to actually spend 180 minutes a day on social media. Kind of crazy to think about. 3 hours. And if you include iMessage in that, it's going to be even more. But it's about 3 hours. So there's plenty of time in there. So that's my perception of it. It's like this is all one big attention graph, and movies compete with TikTok just as much as Taco Bell competes with Whole Foods. It's like they're not direct competition, but in a way they are. It's still consumption. So that's been my perception of it. Luke, our head of social strategy, really has pioneered that, and he treats it like economics, but it's crazy, but it's true. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah.
Okay, so when you're creating content, then what % of your time are you going to spend on LinkedIn, Instagram, compared to Byte? Or I don't even think Byte's really an option at this point, but they're really trying to push for it. But TikTok and YouTube or whatever platform you're going to use, what's your percentage? So
short answer, you need to figure out a way to be on all of them. Figure out like a content pyramid type model where you can push to all those channels. That's kind of what we follow a little bit. The second is go with a platform where you get the greatest results, and because it is easier to build up an audience on one platform than siphon that audience to others than it is to try to grow 10 at once, putting equal time into those pockets. So for me, I spent probably the majority of, or not me, but like as an agency, for my personal brand, we put the most time towards my LinkedIn. But we also are now starting to siphon my LinkedIn audience to Instagram, where now I hop on Instagram Live and get meetings from it. Like it's fucking weird how it works, but that is how it works. And so TikTok, also doing a little bit of stuff, mainly just for learning purposes. I'm not trying to get any leads or do anything unique from there. But more so just to test it. So that's how I treat it. I want to become the guy on LinkedIn. Then once I'm there, start siphoning it out to other audiences. But I get the most results on LinkedIn, so I spend my most time there. I think too many businesses try to play everywhere because they feel like they have to. They hear the advice from marketers or the headlines that you have to be on Facebook, you have to be on Instagram, you have to be on all these platforms. If you can be, yes. But if you're having to share time across each now, you're actually limiting your potential growth for just one of those. And it's easier to explode on one than siphon the audience to others than it is to try to grow them all equally. Like, there's no such thing as linear growth on social media. It's you just boom, 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 and then one day it explodes. There's no like direct linear line of growth. So that's kind of my advice when it comes to social media and time allocation.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And another thing which we established before we started that we differ on is that a lot of my marketing strategy revolves around going to networking events. I might do 3 to 5 events in a week, but my networking event could be a typical chamber event, around Kansas City. It could be an Olathe chamber or whatever. I'm a member of the Leawood chamber, and then actually, in my opinion, we can talk about this another time, but I've been to at least one event of almost every chamber in Kansas City, every Overland Park chamber, everything. The best chamber in Kansas City, hands down, bar none, is the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Really? Yeah. And I've actually heard that.
They are welcoming, they are happy, they are going to introduce you to people, they're not going to be standoffish and not talk to you and think they're better than you. When you get there, they're always going to have food, because that's a big part of their culture, which might not sound like a big deal, but when you're going to all these events and there's no snacks, there's no hors d'oeuvres, there's no nothing, it's just like, here, get in here and trade business cards. It's like, there's something about having, and the Hispanics don't mess around either. So I'm talking buffets of carne asada, you name it, like they're going all in. And then drinks too. I mean, they love the tequila and they love all the, non-alcoholic drinks too, but they're gonna make the environment nice. They're gonna have music. They have people that are like, if you're being shy or you're not outgoing, they have people that are designated. They're gonna be like, hey, come meet this person, or hey, can I help you with something? And they are just a well-oiled machine.
That's
and
awesome.
You don't have to be Hispanic either. And I'm technically not even Hispanic myself, but they've opened me with open arms, or they've welcomed me with open arms.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's just amazing. So anyone that wants to come out, I'm a part of them. My business partner, Carlos Vitas, is like a celebrity in the Hispanic community, and he's awesome.
That's awesome.
But long story short, a lot of my networking events aren't even networking events, they're charities that I'm involved with. And the reason I love charity events more than networking events, which is something to consider even though you're anti-networking event.
I know. I need to get involved to some extent.
When you go to a charity event though, you're forming a bond with the other people there against a common enemy, which would be, cancer or autism or something, not against autism, but supporting people with autism or something. And it's like, okay, the reason we're here tonight is not to just be forced into trading business cards so I can sell you something, you can sell me something, and we're not going to call each other, and we're not going to do business anyways, but let's have a pretend conversation for 30 minutes and waste each other's time. It's like, no, there's an outline. There's going to say, hey, come to this event. We're raising money to help research autism, I don't know if there's cures or what, but to research, heart cancer or whatever. So the purpose is we're raising money for this charity. Come out and support us. And if you do that, yes, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars, but we're going to have drinks and we're going to have stuff too. And you're going to form that bond with those other people there because you're both trying to fight cancer. And you're like, hey, I met you at that charity event. We should get together sometime. And it's not this forced interaction. You actually get to choose who you interact with, and if you connect with them, it's a real relationship. And then if you want to pursue some business with them later, so be it, but you're not forced into doing these fake relationships. And it kind of filters out those people that go to those chamber events that are just looking to sell people something, that are a little snaky. And it filters them out to where you have good people that don't go to networking events because they might be a CEO or an executive or a business owner, and they're going because they actually have a family member that has diabetes or whatever, and they're actually going to support the cause, or their nephew has autism, so they're there to support. It's like, okay, now you're actually talking to a real prospect that could be like beneficial for your business and their business, and you're not doing so in a forced manner.
That makes a lot of sense. Damn. Might have changed my perspective on networking events. I'm still not sold. I still think it's more important to build up your digital presence, but I do see the value in it a little bit more. Yes. Well, I know we're running short on time here, but is there anything else we want to end this with in particular?
I just want to thank you for having me out.
I
really appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing with your team. I love your leadership that you have at such a young age. I feel like you're going to take Kansas City by storm you're already doing it.
We'll see.
I can't wait to see what the next 5 years looks like for you. I'm glad that we can meet like this, and I hope we can continue to have a friendship and build on this from here and do this all again sometime.
Oh yeah, man. Appreciate it. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was an awesome episode. Let me know down in the comment section of whatever platform you're watching this on what you thought of this, what was your biggest takeaway, and who we should have on next in terms of a guest. Anyway, thanks guys, and I'll see you soon.